We are. Hey, Chris. It's Friday.
It is, Jay. I haven't seen you in a whole week. I'm
It's
so
another
excited to be
Friday.
here.
Yes.
Another Friday.
Yeah.
Lots of
I
news happened again this week.
I
Lots
really
of
don't
excitement.
remember
It's
last Friday.
Oh yeah,
I was still in jet lag mode there. So
there you go.
yeah. So
Well, we made
lots
an
of news.
awesome
Let's do it again.
episode,
Yeah.
and to all of the folks that are out there that are watching or interested, welcome to On the Rocks, the show where we talk about accounting and accounting adjacent information, mostly as it relates to e-commerce, but not only. And today is an example of not only. I'm Chris Gino, and I'm here with my co-host Jay Kimmelman. One day I'll get the fingers right. One day I'll
You
get them in
got
the
it.
right
You
place.
got it. You're good.
Last week we caught up on a few weeks of news because Jay and I had been out of the office for a little while and talked through why taking off time is so important, as well as giving you a few stories from Jay and my travels. This week, on the heels of scaling new heights, and then in the middle of kind of like the start of the accounting conference season, we're going to talk through some of the pros and cons of attending conferences and some of the things to think about as you think about attending conferences. But first, but first, it was a big news week. The IRS was super busy. So what happened this week? Before we get to the IRS themselves, the Supreme Court they're releasing opinions a little bit at a time, and got a few more that we expect here. But they issued one yesterday related to I don't know what it'll end up being called, but I'm going to call it more for now. And it's related to international income for U.S. people. Jay, have you looked at this more decision at all? Do you have any thoughts or feedback on what happened there?
I heard a little bit about it, but I really haven't dug deep into it. I
Yeah,
believe it has to do with international income, but it's really based on what they're saying is this is like a saving grace for the Biden administration and the taxing of the unearned gains that he wants to do. So,
yeah, and or
yeah,
like a wealth tax, right? I heard
wealth,
that.
right,
I've also heard some things that some of the justices of the Supreme Court kind of explicitly said. Actually, that's not what we're talking about. But in this
right,
particular case, it is okay
right.
to tax on that kind of wealth, where it's internationally earned
Yep.
income that is a part of or like a component of retained earnings. Obviously, I don't know all the details. There are people out there who specialize in studying and talking about exactly these things. And so, if you have a multinational business with unpatriated funds, then talk to your tax advisor and make sure that they're reading up from those great folks like Tax Girl over at Forbes or whomever
Yep.
whoever you can find as a good resource there. I also
Sure.
saw I also saw some. Speaking of politics and politics related stuff, one of our presidential candidates has some interest in changing the tax law and changing the tax law in a way that makes tip income non-taxable. That seems like maybe it's not that much income overall or whatever, but I'm super interested, Jay, in like how do you feel about this?
Well, first thing, I don't see that ever passing Congress
Mhm.
because
Sure.
it's got at current level $150 billion tax impact.
Yikes.
And what has already been said was there will be a mass shifting of income to tips, which will raise that to approximately $250 billion of
Yep,
revenue for the
I
government.
believe that.
So,
Um,
yeah,
you
and
think?
I will keep my politics to myself, but I just,
Sure.
from a standpoint of funding the government, and I mean, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did not get funded, and we
Yeah.
have increased the deficit. This would blow out the deficit at this
Yep.
point.
Yeah, it
So,
would. It would be pretty good, I think, for people in the tip space, right? Obviously, they would have a significant. They'd have whatever it was, 150 billion dollars worth of value out of this,
oh yeah,
um, and
it's a vote
and
grab,
the
is all it is.
right. Well, and then and I think that that's very very true. And then there are some interesting like thoughts about like what kinds of alternatives could you do uh, to like make something like this like just as valuable to in a different way, or
Yeah.
like what are the ways to combat something like this, right? And there can be a lot of conversation around that, but I did think it was interesting, and I certainly wanted to. 150 billion was that's a pretty big yikes. I didn't
That's a
realize it was quite so
yeah.
large.
Yep.
Speaking of gigantic billions of yikes, our man Danny Werfel, he got back out in front of everybody earlier this week and talked about a whole bunch of different things. He has a lot going on, is what it sounds like.
Yep.
But one of the things that he talked about specifically that I want to mention as a yikes is that 70% of ERC claims that they're currently like processing have fraud related red flags, which is that's a yikes. Now that exposure is probably not 150 billion, but it is a lot of billions. And in fact, the voluntary disclosure and the withdrawal option for the ERC for people who didn't realize maybe they were using a mill or something like that and didn't realize that they were doing it all wrong or whatnot. They've already recovered 1.5 billion through that. And they already have under investigation 7 billion, so almost 10 billion between these two
Yeah.
of fraudulent or expected to be fraudulent claims. And so that's also a lot of billions and can go a lot of way. Maybe buy one jet or something. I'm not really sure how far a billion goes to the government, but I'm sure it can do something. And it's good to see that they're continuing to do their diligence around these claims and making sure that because they are taking their time in processing payments out because people we talked last week about the moratorium and how it's been 6 weeks or 6 months since they've let anybody join back in, but that they're still processing claims. They're taking their time to process the claims, and they're making sure that the ones that they actually do fund shouldn't have this fraud situation where they need to go back and collect later. So,
Yeah.
so big good job by the IRS on this.
So I have a question on the ERC
Oh
claims. What is
yeah,
the
sure.
percentage of recipients that actually went and filed amendments on their returns where they had higher income due to the refunds?
Did Danny talk about this? Because I
I,
sure don't know.
I don't. I'm just really curious about
Yeah,
that.
I think that would be an interesting question to ask, and I wonder if that
Yeah.
is itself a red flag of
Right.
of you're going to get some investigation if you haven't properly made those adjustments.
We might have to
So
make that inquiry.
might have to make that
Yeah,
inquiry.
for
Let
sure.
let Danny and the crew know what's going on, right? Um, there were two other just like I'll call them really light items, certainly not quite so heavy, that came out of recent IRS activity. The first one is that there's a new 6765 form. I don't know what the hell that is by its own name, but I did. But in researching, this sounds like this is the form that you have to file for your research credits. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep. R&D
Yeah, and so
credits.
they got an R&D credit form out that they're because of some feedback that was given previously. I guess I don't know what tweaks and edits they've made, but there's a new one out there, and hopefully when they take feedback and advice, hopefully that means that the new form's easier to use, a little bit easier to understand. That's kind of my expectation, especially when they like put it out there of, hey, we made this cool new draft.
Yeah.
And then the other was a retirement related thing that I thought was at least a little bit interesting. They've issued some exceptions for like emergency expenses or for victims of domestic abuse related to retirement plan withdrawals. So they've done some clearing up of the language and stuff that goes around that to make sure that the right set of people are protected, and that I assume, although I didn't read the paperwork, but when you have an emergency expense, we're talking like house burned down or something like that, and you need some extra funding, that they're not like double punishing these people who've already gone through something traumatic. Um, I think that's really good, and especially as a person who audited 401k activity in my audit experience, The worst thing that you can see is when somebody takes that early withdrawal and has a 10% withholding and then a 10% penalty, because that 10% penalty is a big time waste of money. So making sure that people are using the retirement funds for what they're supposed to be for, but also making sure that that people that are in unfortunate or like not great situations, that they're being taken care of. I think both of those things are really important, and so I'm glad to see some extra clarity to those two types of situations.
So in a previous
Um,
episode, I think I mentioned I had a client once that I went to my congressman regarding,
oh
and
yeah,
it was a single mother. She had to use her retirement funds,
yeah.
and she gladly paid the 10%. But what happened was, so whatever you pull out becomes income and part of your AGI and
Right.
MAGI, and it
Yep.
put her over the level of one of the other deductions or credits that
Oh
she
no.
needed to have. And
Mm,
my thought is, this is an extraordinary reason you're pulling your funds out. You shouldn't be penalized for that. So that
right.
penalty is still there. And as I said when we talked about this before, he's like, yeah, that'll never change. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a really difficult one to
Yeah.
change, but I don't disagree with you that like again, people in traumatic and dramatic situations where you need that money, where you've made
Yeah.
the decision that this is what you need to do, like I do agree that less punitive is better in those situations for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I understand,
Um,
keep it in taxable income and pay that, but don't
sure.
penalize them for other benefits that they would be receiving because of that, you know?
Yeah. So just
So, yeah, for sure.
an add-on to
Yeah.
AGI or something, not
Yeah.
but doesn't impact other things.
Well, there was one other note that came out of the
Ooh.
IRS and from Danny Werfel. They are continuing the direct file method.
Oh, okay.
So that will live on. Yet, that was followed up by a story that the House Republicans want to pull that back and defund it.
Hmm.
So, again,
Mm-hmm.
politics at play. Let's. And I could see where could be a very expensive program because, like, you know, Intuit and CCH and Thompson's, they got to update their systems annually as well. So, there's,
Yeah.
there's some development costs there, and then staffing costs to run that. But you know what? Let's give the
Pretty easy.
taxpayers a free, easy way to do it without
Do it.
tricking them into having to pay for the returns. That's how I see
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's any question that that I agree with you on that one for sure.
it.
Especially as a free filer, big
Yes.
fan of the big fan of free filing. Um,
Yes.
and then I also think like I think it's just short sighted to be like, oh, it costs so much money because you have to update it so much, because there are other ways to make it not so much updates
Right.
as maybe don't have quite as many rule changes, maybe make it a little less complex overall,
Right.
maybe pigeonhole the like certain sets of things in so that those updates aren't as costly. Like there's a lot of things that you
Yep.
can do outside of just being like, no, can't fund it.
But the fact that
And
they are
so
putting money into technology
yeah,
is great
it's a big
because
thing.
it's needed.
Big thing.
Actually, there
Yep.
was another thing I saw that they have actually pushed up a job site for the IRS.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. It was
You
in the
did,
news.
okay,
You forgot
good.
because you
I,
because you were
like I
still jet
told you,
lagging, but I mentioned it
yes,
last week.
yes, 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 yes. Good.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
yeah, which is another great use of those funds toward technological improvements, like a
Mm-hmm.
huge thing, right? Like anything that we can do to make the overall like tax funding process easier for everybody that's
For
involved,
sure.
like is a easy win,
Yep.
easy win.
Yep.
Speaking of easy wins, actually, I don't think this is an easy win at all. So we'll see if where this transition goes. Easy wins. PE groups, they're really still buying those accounting firms. An easy win for them, right?
Yep.
Accounting firms can have pretty good margins, and especially if you can scale them properly, you can have pretty good returns. PE groups know about easy wins. and they know
For sure.
about investing in the right kinds of spaces. So a fact I saw is that 5 of the top 15 firms have at least some kind of private equity investment at this point in time. So it's out there, it's happening. I read an article about a different fund that may have been Ascend, I think was maybe the name of the fund, that was buying several smaller proprietors and giving them a good opportunity, right? I think that like a lot of times we do think about PE as being like a soul sucking group, right? They're just trying to cut off all of the flack and just make as much profit as possible so that they can resell and generate returns that way. But at least a couple of these PE firms that are investing in accounting recognize that just doing that and burning all of your folks out and all of that kind of stuff is ultimately going to be a problem. And
Yep.
it looks like at least a couple of these different PE groups that are buying smaller firms, so 5 million or less revenue, right, and just consolidating them all together. Like it seems like a lot of these ones are focusing more on the people and making sure that they understand like what people need to be able to have interest in staying in accounting and supporting those structures. So I was really like I haven't had a lot of conversations with people about PE and how PE is impacting accounting firms, but I was really like I really enjoyed seeing that there's at least a group out there, right, that
Yeah.
has interest in still putting humans first, right?
For
Um,
sure.
which can be a big thing because again, that's just not the rap that PE gets. So maybe PE is changing a little. Maybe they're accelerating or changing with the times. I guess that is to be determined. A
We'll
lot of
find
this
out for
PE
sure.
activities really,
Yes.
really only
Now,
over the past year and a half.
now, part of one of the keynotes this week at Scaling New Heights, Joe Woodard said he was talking about the PE, and it's
Yeah,
all over the top 100 firms.
just everywhere. Yeah,
It's everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of value in it too. I think as a firm owner,
Most definitely.
because especially if someone is buying several firms at once, all of those back office things that can take a lot of your individual time. It's the same thing that we talk about from an advisory perspective to our clients, right? All
For
of those
sure.
things that you're not any good at, like the people management, the like client, like going to like acquire clients, the BD, all that stuff, all of those things that like take you away from the thing you love, they can do for you at
Right.
scale,
Right.
and that can provide you so much value, yeah, with also the capital backing to be able to say like you don't have to make a decision of like what am I going
Right.
to do with this one extra person, like how many use I only need 75% of them today. Like you have a lot more flexibility because you have a little bit more like runway there.
Yeah. And
um, and
and they
so
have their hands and their investments in multiple industries. So
yeah,
there are very, very many verticals that can integrate with what you're doing to help you
yeah,
achieve your goals,
oh
including
yeah,
technology companies to help you build those technology
absolutely.
gains that you're looking for. Speaking of
That
which, I
is
just got an
correct.
alert that
Oh,
Ticketmaster has had a breach on one of their third party
great,
systems. So,
great.
speaking of which, yep.
um, I I don't want to talk about Ticketmaster. They just make me so angry. We'll have to save that. I'm gonna have to save that one for another time.
Yeah.
Um, my Ticketmaster rant. Maybe for the end of this episode
Yeah.
when we give updates on sports. Sad. Um, Speaking of making investments, I did this is now the third or fourth time when I've done speaking of. So speaking of making investments in accounting, this happened kind of right before we talked last week, but we didn't talk about it. But EY has committed to making a $1 billion investment in technology and talent over the next 3 years. So they're trying to be their own PE group by giving themselves a lot of money. So good job
Yeah.
by them. I do think, and I have always thought that the real like the underlying change that we all kind of talk about a lot that accounting firms need, like, kind of doesn't matter until the big four at least like lean into it a little bit more.
Yep.
And so if EY is looking to make some kind of change that's going to improve their team performance and their like the way that they're perceived. Like I think that's a huge thing, because once they do it, then everybody else kind of will fall in line or do something similar or try something similar for sure. As it comes to e-commerce related news, there were a couple things that I read about that I thought were interesting. The first one actually is related to data security. So this year, the Digital Trust Index rankings came out, and they talked about how, hey, shocking news, everyone, digital security, data security, it's critical to e-consumers. We really, we're all of those relationships with e-commerce entities are built on trust, and consumers demand that trust is maintained. And so in a situation like a data breach, or even in some situations just asking for too much information, that can turn off your customers. And so finding that right balance, and also making sure that you're protected against those types of data breaches, is so critical to making sure that your business continues. Because if you're not being responsive to that need of the e-consumer, you're eventually just going to be phased out. You're going to get exposed sometime, and exactly. and the customers aren't going to come back. They just don't accept that. So make sure you're doing that. One other study, per Talker research, Talker like talking, they talked about how inflation is impacting e-consumers and kind of making them shop a little differently, which I thought was really interesting. And I thought that it would be something worth having a conversation around how e-commerce related businesses could potentially take advantage of some of this. There were a few different things that the Talker research study pointed out as things that people are doing or things that people find persuasive. So they're using coupons more frequently. And so I think about that a lot when I buy on Amazon, using that little coupon to buy one thing and also the other thing. But if you buy them together, you get a $5 savings. Or if you buy, the 3-pack versus the 1-pack, you're going to save so much more. That's it's not just me. Apparently that's happening across the industry. Obviously, we've talked about this before, I'm sure, but free shipping is really persuasive. People, especially as they're tight on cash a little bit, or more tight on cash than they used to be, they don't want to pay for shipping. They don't want to pay for those returns, and so and they don't want their returns to be complicated either. A straightforward returns process is really important to consumers. I also thought it was really interesting that 60% of people found that frequent sales, so just having your product on sale more frequently, was an incentive in making them utilize your product more frequently, which isn't that surprising, but it was interesting to just see it be a thing that people just owned up to, of yeah, you know what, I like products that are on sale a lot. Big fan of that. That's
it's a perception.
That was really interesting.
Yeah. I worked for a company that had a 50% off sale every year. And for that 50% off sale, they would raise the price the week before. And then they'd do the 50%. And then when that was over, they moved it back to where it was. So it's all about perception of that price in the sale and having a deal. And it works. It really does. It's all psychological.
Yeah. And to that same thing, having loyalty incentives was a thing that really interested e-consumers too. So if you're buying frequently from the same folks, I don't know, getting a thing free later on, that kind of thing, appears to have been a really interesting thing, for a persuasive thing for purchasing a product. So I thought those were interesting things to talk about. One other thing that's neither accounting or really e-commerce related, but definitely is technology related. I read a Twitter thread about how LLMs, so those language models, so ChatGPT, all of those types of guys, that their usage is starting to wane a little bit for the big, broad, open companies, right? And it made me think about it as I was reading it. I was like, this is so right. This is exactly the experience that Jay and I just talked about last week when I talked about how lousy the Southwest chatbot was. Their
Mm-hmm.
language model isn't refined enough. And it takes a lot of effort to do that, right? It takes a lot to make that chatbot work effectively in your like very specific environment. And so because of that, there are lots of extra costs that go into like continuing to update it or to continue to make it dynamic so that it's changing when you're changing. And because those costs are increasing, the like acceptance rate or usage rate is starting to dwindle a little bit, or the like time is starting to take a little bit longer to roll out these types of projects where people are or companies are investing a little bit more along the way, or trying to make sure that they don't do what they don't put people into the experience that I had, right, where the chatbot is just a super fail. So we will see how that continues or whether that continues in the future or in the near future. But I did think it was interesting to see that like that is actually happening, and that there are like very powerful reasons why, um, and things to definitely consider if you are looking to like roll out your own like LLM project, or if you're using others. Like there are reasons that there might be problems to them, and it might just take time for them to get better. Um, and then Jay, to our evergreen topic. Evergreen. I shouldn't even ask about it because I already know the answer. We've got no tax
Right.
updates today.
Yeah.
No
Nothing.
chance. There's no way. Even if Congress was ready and willing, they wouldn't do it right now anyway.
Correct. And
So
I'm so
so
looking forward to this conversation next week.
oh yeah, what's happening next
Where,
week?
well, we have the first presidential debate, so
Oh,
hopefully we'll have some more discussion regarding tax plan and things along
oh
those
man,
lines.
let's go. That'll be
No.
exciting to see. So we'll see if tax makes a topic point in
Yes.
the presidential debate. That'll be fun to watch. Um,
So I'm
Wonderful.
looking
What
at
other?
my wife's ticket here. She's going to St. Louis in a month, and
Yeah,
yesterday, did I tell you that the upgrade offers that I had in my
yeah, your Delta one.
yeah. So
Yeah,
she had one $1,100 for a first class upgrade from Orlando to Atlanta.
seems pretty bad.
Pretty bad, yeah.
Not a good price.
Yeah, $41 for Comfort Plus, and it's like that's not very good for loyalty incentives right there.
Yeah, no, that is
Yeah.
not a
So
successful one.
just
You
when you
better
were
go.
talking about that, made me think about that, and it's no longer there,
Sure.
so they might have sold those out already. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah,
You're at your level, even at platinum level, there are no upgrades going to Atlanta because there's so many people higher than you. So don't
Sure.
worry about it. Just get there, and then
Oh, man.
hopefully going to St. Louis, you can get an upgrade. So
Yeah, that's a little bit farther. Definitely going to Greece, it's probably worth it. But yeah, Georgia from Florida, probably not
yeah, for sure.
not the right one to
Yes.
splurge on. Um, what other news, Jay? Did I miss anything in the summary here? Anything? I
Nothing
know
I
you
can think
were
of.
you were
I
busy
mean,
this week.
I threw a couple items in there, but no. I mean, got a
Yeah.
good batch of news there.
All right. Yeah, lots of news. Jay, what are you drinking today? Water again? Oh, we're back. We're back. Is it Belay?
It is not. It is Makers and Coke.
There you go. All
And
right.
I want to show you the new glasses I received from
Ooh,
Vic at File.
nice.
I got a gift pack from them a couple weeks ago. Finally broke into it, and here we are. I might as well
Love that.
have a cocktail since I was at a conference all week and was having
That's right.
cocktails all week. So why
Right.
not continue
I need-
tonight?
I need you to hook me up with somebody so I can get rid of the Pinecrest one.
There you go.
I need a new thing. Today, so while I was cruising, I have mentioned before the beer box or whatever that I get monthly. While I was cruising, the beer box came up to be due. Normally, I like check them and all that stuff, but while I was cruising, I didn't. So I got a random box, unfiltered by. Well, I mean, so Beer Drop which is the company that I use for this, is actually very good about this. They are like, what kinds of beer do you like? And you can select however
Yeah.
many different kinds of the different kinds that you want. And so I am having right now a a bed of nails. Nope, this way.
Oh,
A bed of
nice.
nails, which is a brown ale from High Wire Brewing, which I have no idea where that is. But it is pretty good. I am a big fan of brown ales. And so this one is, it's from Asheville. So there you go,
Okay.
Asheville, North Carolina.
Beautiful.
Good beer out of Asheville. And then when I finish that one, which I probably will, we're going to a Texas staple here, the old Shinerbach.
Shiner. There you go.
So Shinerbach is ready to go, if and when I finish the other. So wonderful. Bed of nails it is in the Pinecrest cup still. So again, if anybody doesn't wants to see themselves here every week, I use the same cup every time. So so let me know. Find me a cup. I'll drink in it every day. Every time I do this, you can get your brand just right there in front of everybody.
There you go.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's my pitch.
Yes.
We'll see if anybody tweets at me or whatever about that. Probably not, but I'll do it. I'll do it. I have no shame. I will drink out of anything branded.
We'll edit
For
that out
sure.
into a short and see if we can get
There you
something to
go.
capture
I will drink out of anything branded.
that.
Shot glasses, whatever. Let's go. Too funny. Oh man. So Jay, this week you were at Scaling New Heights. I know the
Yes.
here in the U.S. It is accounting conference season. Engage was 2 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago now, right at the beginning of June, and then
Yeah, it was
the
last
digital
week. It
CPA
was the week
conference.
that we were on vacation.
That's right. Oh
Well, the
yeah,
week I was on vacation. So, because I
right.
had put in
Yeah, so last week.
I had put in a topic and it got, I don't know if it was accepted or not because I had to withdraw it because we were gone. So,
You're gonna be there anyway.
yeah, so that was that. And at the same time that was happening, ZeroCon was happening in the UK.
Yeah, and there have been all kinds of different conferences that are happening. Like this is the core time, but they go on all the way through the digital CPA conference in December. So conferences are just kind of happening from now until the end of the year. Like I mentioned, you were at Scaling New Heights, right in your neighborhood there. Just what, yesterday? When did it end? Wednesday.
It ended Wednesday.
Yeah.
Sunday
And so
through Wednesday, 4 days.
Sunday through
It
Wednesday.
was a long 4 days, but it was a lot of great information. I saw a lot of old friends, made some new ones. It was great. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, so that's what we want to talk about today, right? Is let's talk about conferences. Let's talk about why you should go. Let's talk about should you go at all. Let's talk about what are the draws, what are the drawbacks. How do you choose which ones to go to? How many do you choose to go to? Like all of this kind of stuff. So let's get started. So Jay, I'm going to ask you a super simple question, or at least I already know what your answer is going to be. But I think it's a good starting place, and that's if you're an accounting professional, should you attend a conference?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
You need to find out what's going on in the industry. You need to, I mean, and if you are certified or have a need for continuing professional education, it's a great way to get the hours that you need. And by getting some education, going through some of the networking and meeting people, going through the expo halls and seeing these dozens of app partners that are out there, and some are service providers as well that are there, and over time you build relationships with these vendors. And a lot of the higher standing ones have events, dinners, things along those lines, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so I think that's like a really concise summary of the draws, right? You can get CPE, which is critical. Like you have to have it. You have to get it somehow. So you may as well get it while you're making friends, while you're learning about the different technology that can help you to improve your business. Right? Yeah, exactly. You're finding cups, whatever it may
beverages,
be.
but
yeah. And then again, like you're talking about, like a lot of the big vendors will often support some kind of like activity, right? So there are things to do as well that aren't just there as part of the main conference, but there are lots of ways to meet people and lots of ways to have a good time.
Getting some swag
Include
while
what's
you're
that
there as
like
well.
Bavarian pretzel guy, Bavarian Lego?
Yeah. Canopy had a office set. Do I have it here?
Love that.
I don't.
I love that.
Basically, it's a break room, and they have you make your person. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh yeah, look, pizza guy,
Pizza guy.
pizza and beer guy. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect.
So I
Fun.
got my fill of hats. I got my fill of. Let's see. I got some socks.
Lego people.
You think about it, you got it.
That's that's fantastic too. Yeah. So if you need did you get T-shirts? I assume you got T-shirts. Did you get a T-shirt?
Got a couple T-shirts. But more importantly than getting T-shirts, I also did 4 presentations while I was there.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is more important too, because that again, like the good thing, the like real draw like about a conference is not like getting swag, right? That's a cool side effect, right?
Yeah.
But let's be honest, like most of that stuff's gonna go like, sit in your closet, or like maybe your little Lego guys will go on a shelf or something like behind you, like that kind of thing. Like, but you're not gonna use them all the time. But a thing that you definitely will use all the time is the education that you get, right? Yeah, exactly. Or the software that you're looking for, right? And so being in those places where you can mine knowledge from people who are leading the industry already, and people who are looking to make change, who are actively there, trying to pitch you their products. Like, there's not a better time to be able to learn about like what software exists that can make your processes better, and can make your business more profitable, make your business more appealing to PE.
For sure.
Whatever it may be. And you never know. Like you may meet the person whose firm gets acquired in 6 months by the PE group, who now has a connection for you that can help you to do the same, or can give you some of the like pros and cons, right? Like those relationships that you build become so critical, because those are the people that you will connect to later when you have questions, or you have problems, or you have things that you don't know how to resolve.
Building networks is what it's about. You're building a network of peers, and I might come across a tax issue that I can't solve. Well, I can reach out to somebody I met at this conference and get that detail.
Right. Yeah, and tax obviously is like a great space for this, right? Because most tax professionals have a pretty good understanding of Fed tax, right? And a pretty good understanding of their local state taxes. But once you start to like expand out into, I don't know, Indiana or somewhere gnarly like that, like or Ohio or whatever state it is that has the worst one, like you may not know, right? Even though you're a high quality professional, like you just don't have the exposure to those other states. And so having that reference point where you can say, I don't, but this person that I met at Scaling New Heights, like they live in that state, they're going to be a great reference for me to be able to like bounce an idea off of, or just make sure that I'm thinking about or reading the guidance correctly, or whatever it may be. Exactly. And so building those networks like is a huge positive from both the like you're talking about, right? Both the professionals who are like you, but also the vendor relationships, because it is very easy to see different options, different vendors there at these conferences. That they're there for a reason, and they often send their best people, right? They're going to send people who are going to be able to tell you the most information about their product, because that's what they're there for. They're there to sell you on it, to teach you about it, to help you to learn about what their product does and how it can help you. And so you may not need a new, tax software right now. You may not, but in 3 years' time, when you start to, when you're like, man, this one is a little bit too small for me now, or I'm a little bit too big for this one, or whatever different direction you're going in, right? Like now you have this basket of different people that you can reach out to explore what other options are there for you, or what other changes you can make. And so there are just loads and loads of networking opportunities. I asked this question, and I don't know if you're really even gonna be able to say much about this, Jay. But what what drawbacks are there to attending conferences? We talked about all these draws. What's the
Well,
bad side?
well, you have to be out of the office and attend.
Yep,
You might have to travel.
true.
Uh,
Also true.
it is summer in Florida, and there were some flight delays and people having trouble getting in. I mean, there were people that were supposed to get in on Saturday that got in Monday night. And
Oh no.
there's actually one person that their flight, they couldn't find another flight to get in.
No, they almost had my story.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that happens. And, then the front end of it, was on Sunday, which was Father's Day. So I had to leave my family early on Sunday to
Right.
get on down to the hotel where the event was. Luckily, Abigail drove me down there, and we had a little extra time together, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, it was great. And that's a drawback. And I did have to present
Right.
on Father's Day, but I presented with Christy, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun presenting with her. We got a lot of great feedback, and it went well. Now, I also brought some equipment with me to record our sessions, and of course, I was missing a cable.
Oh no.
Last time we used the setup, Abby used it with my camera, and I had the camera to connect my wireless Go to the camera, not to the phone. So, luckily for me, Abby came down to record my afternoon session on Tuesday afternoon, and she brought me the
There you
cable,
go.
but she still recorded it on the camera. She loves doing the
Nice.
camera there, and so. But I did hook it all up and record on Wednesday. Get my last 20-minute session. So got
There
all
you go.
that
Great.
going now. So yeah, I'm ready for the next conference to be able to
Yeah.
shoot some video and maybe go live a couple times from ZeroCon. Well, let's see what's going to happen there.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that when we get to the end here too, because that should be a fun time. We're both gonna be there, so
I will be
maybe we'll go.
presenting.
Hmm.
I will be presenting. I'll be part of a panel.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, breaking news.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, breaking news. Jay, panel, ZeroCon, coming soon.
Loving it.
So those can be like, tough drawbacks for sure. Like having to travel, and worry about all the things that go along with travel, and
Yeah.
making sure you find a good hotel, and making sure you do all of the things. I mean, obviously the conferences aren't free, right? So like you have to spend a little bit of money to be able to go to a place.
It does have a cost for sure.
Yeah. But again, I think, and I think Jay, obviously we both agree on this, like the positives, the draws, like significantly outweigh the drawbacks. However, you could probably get overextended, and so my next question is, how do you choose which conference to attend?
Well, number one, have me speak. But yeah, realistically, you think about it, you want to go to the ones where you get some energy out of it. You want to learn,
Sure.
and you want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. Now, for me, I don't know what number ZeroCon this is, but I've been to everyone in the U.S. so far, and I will continue to do that because I fully support Zero in every way I can, and I come out of ZeroCon every year with an energy that allows me to do more. And you come out, you end up finding that next new client, or you come out of there with these ideas to become more efficient. And this year will be no different with what's going on with Zero and what's coming out this year. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, and so obviously, like I am attending this year too, and this will be my first one. And so I'm super excited to have that experience and to be able to relay that feedback as well. And truly, like I don't know, this may be like shocking news, but this will be my first conference experience at all. Don't tell anybody. So I don't have a lot of conference experience because I spent the first 10 years or so of my career at RSM. and RSM's trainings, their CPE, were
Right.
all like internal.
Right.
And so I did them internally. And then the next firm that I went to was part of Alineo Global. And Alineo Global, very similar. Like they had their own training sessions, but
Sure.
we didn't go to conferences. Um, and so um, and so this will be my first like actual conference to attend. So I will be able to provide direct feedback on how that process goes and some of the pros and cons. It is a challenge, right? It's several days, right? I have to plan with my wife to make
Yeah,
sure that we
for
have
sure.
like family taken care of properly. I love traveling, so ZeroCon this year is in Nashville, so that's not that big a deal for me personally.
Right.
Like, great, I get to go to Nashville. What a deal! Let's go.
I
Um,
might
uh,
end up having to drive.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
More to come
Well,
there.
I mean, there's worse places to go.
Oh
I
yeah.
say that. So I do feel like I am dismissing Camp A2X, which I just don't feel like was a conference. It was a
I was
different
gonna
thing.
say you're missing the unconference there.
Yeah, it was an unconference. So
I
I
mean,
did go there.
yes, you did.
That's really the first one, but it's
Yes.
not really a conference. Not quite the same thing. But
Nah,
um,
it's got some aspects to it, but no, it's not.
it's a
And
different thing.
yeah.
Um, and so and so Uh, and so I think, like you were saying, like the important ones are to find those conferences that align with the same types of values that you have, or can provide you like the type of information that you need for your practice.
Yeah.
Um, or there are certain ones that can support like the industry that you're going to, right? There are very niche conferences that are out there that may be specifically for real estate or for e-commerce or
Exactly.
for those types of things, right? And so identifying the conference that's going to give you that like true value is obviously how you choose, right? I don't that wasn't going to be rocket science. This was a pretty easy question to talk about, but it was an important one, I think. The second thing that I wanted to ask about that is how do you choose how many? Um, and so Jay, the answer might be like how many are going to let me speak, right? Like sure,
Right.
that may be the
Yeah.
answer. Um, uh, but do you have any
Well,
thoughts on like how you choose how many you get to?
I mean, some of it comes down to budget. You have to have a budget for the number of hours you're willing to miss from the office and miss your work because you're going to have to make that up. There's a
Yeah.
actual cost to it. Like scaling new heights is like $700, and the plus version of it's like $1,200, something like that.
Yeah. Right.
ZeroCon's got a cost. QuickBooks Connect has a cost. So you have to have that budget and know what you're willing to spend. And if you do have a CPE budget or a CPE requirement, you have to put that in your budget and figure out, okay, I'm going to do this much from a conference. The rest I'm going to do, let's say, you sign up for Earmark and you take your courses that way.
Love it.
So there's a lot of different things that go into it. And,
Yeah.
but, I know people that all they do are conferences. They do conference after conference, and that's their entire summer. So it's a
Yeah. And
great
if
way to travel.
and if your business model supports that too, like why not, right? We talked about all the positives, right? If you're able to continue to be able to network and just connect to people, and that's what brings you like life and also brings you like clients, then how perfect, right? So that is exactly what you should do. So I think that is a really good way to think about it. And then Jay, I asked the same question about vacation, but conferences take a lot of time, right? You've been out of
They
the
do.
office all week. Like,
Yep.
how do you any tips or tricks for managing that time away?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm in my own hometown, and normally when
Mm,
I'm conferencing, Vegas or out west, and for me, it buys me a couple extra hours to do a little bit of work if I need to. This week, I was really lucky. I did not have a lot of requests on me, so I
yeah,
really didn't pay much attention to it. I paid attention to my email, watch Teams, see if I had anything coming in, and I would just take care of those messages. But luckily, I did not have any major issues at all, and
no, that's great.
it was a
Yeah,
relatively quiet week, which was good
right.
because it was a very busy time at Scaling New Heights for me.
Well, yeah, if you're presenting 4 times or whatever it was,
Yeah,
that sounds about right. That's pretty
yeah.
busy time for sure.
I mean,
um,
it's like you want to meet with other people, but it's like you step out into the main hall, and it's like you're walking somewhere. I mean, boom, you talk, you meet somebody you know, you have a 10-minute conversation. One of you got to
right.
go, then same thing, you know. So it's constant, and it's great. I love seeing people that I haven't seen in a while. And this one, I
Right.
had a few other things that were on my plate too. The There's a company called Anchor that has a app that does engagements. So they do the whole engagement and the payment stuff. They
Oh yeah.
did a accounting leaders dance competition, dance off.
Oh, I heard about this. Tell me more.
Yes. So uh, this is really funny. So I get it was months ago. They're like, "Hey, we want you to do this." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. We got you booked for this time on this day." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So that was like 4 months ago,
Uh
and
huh. And you forgot,
Sunday
didn't you,
night.
Jay?
Oh, I didn't forget.
Oh,
No,
you were ready.
it was Thursday, Friday, something. I get an email. Hey, your tech check for your session is at this time, same time. So I'm like, hey, I got a problem here. So I swapped. They swapped. They were able to swap with somebody else that had a tech check the next day at the same time. So we swapped out. Now heading
Perfect.
up to it, I'm sitting there with my he was here in the house after we got back from Greece, sitting with my 8X bucket hat on and talking to my daughter, trying to get some dance tips from her. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Dad, lose the hat and don't dance." And she just looked at me. She just looked at me with that side eye and that disapproving stare and said, "Dad, don't do it." So you know, I start talking that up. My daughter warned me not to do this, and it's great.
Yep.
I'm gonna do it, but you know what? Don't count on me to win. So
Yeah.
I get there, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I really don't. And then the person I am dancing against is telling. And honestly, I had a tech check that day too, and I up to the minute. It's like I got done. I walk over there. They're like, "Oh, your opponent is talking crap about you. That you're
Oh
scared you're not
no.
going to show up."
Ooh.
And I'm like,
Shots fired.
"What?" So
Yeah.
and unfortunately, Sandy and Christy did not catch me talking crap either, because I was like throwing my arms up and throwing some woos in the air, and it's like, you know what? Just let me at it.
Ooh.
Let me at it. Don't tell me I'm not going to come because I'm scared. No.
No.
So
Oh.
they put the dance dad against the dancing accountant. And guess
Nice.
what? The dancing accountant lost.
Get
So it was
it.
like Dance Dance Revolution. So it was tracking your arms pretty much. So as long as I got
Oh,
my
okay.
arms in the right place, I got my points, and that's all that really mattered. So
That was important.
it kind of looked weird because I was kind of
Yeah.
moving a little bit, but it was so stiff because I had to win that thing, and uh, so it
That's
was fun.
wonderful. So you won the
It's fun.
dance competition.
I won my
Dance
dance.
off.
I won my dance. The person that danced before me had double the points I had.
Oh wow. So you got a good draw
So I got a good draw. Yes.
potentially.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I
I
mean
got
that's okay.
6,000 points, and I wasn't double. She got 10,000. I got 6,000. My opponent
I
got
mean that's.
4,000. But then
I
she
mean that's
started
okay.
showing off and shaking her butt too much, and she was missing.
Um,
And then she
wasn't
tried to,
focused on winning.
no, she was focused on dancing, and she was the dancing accountant. I understand,
Hey,
but
that makes sense.
in the end,
The
props
dancing
off
dad took
Joel.
it down. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, what
He
other
was
like
awesome.
that is a fantastic story,
Yeah.
and so maybe we don't even need any other stories about conferences that can pitch people. Like, but do you have any other stories that from conferences where you can say like, here's a direct through line to the kind of the stuff that we talked about today, or is the dance off like a true great spot to leave it?
Well, I will say that at my last engage, I
Mm.
was approached by somebody I had worked with at one point. Not worked for, but worked with in one way or another, asking my
Yeah.
interest in joining their firm, and that ultimately is what led to me coming to High Rock at the time.
Yeah.
So
Love
things like
that.
that. So that's what happens at conferences. And
That's right.
Accounting Salon was born out of conferences because most of us don't pick up a lot from conferences. We pick it up from each other, and
Right.
that is one of the great things is the relationships I built there, and seeing all these people from Accounting Salon, including Heather Satterley, who is an inaugural member along with me, putting all of this together at Scaling New Heights. So,
Yeah.
it's just awesome.
That's right. Use it
Yeah,
to network.
for sure.
Conferences. Great. Do
Yeah,
them. Do
most
them.
definitely.
Do them. Speaking of doing things, see, I did it now. That's the fourth
There
time.
you go.
I don't want that to be my thing. I'm gonna have to stop doing it.
I
Speaking
will.
of,
I will buzz you on that next time you try to do that.
I love it.
Yeah.
We need a thing like speaking of, and then
If
just
I could
speaking
change my
of,
stream
like,
deck right now, I actually loaded a sound into it today, playing with it.
perfect.
So yeah.
Perfect. Can't wait to get buzzed for speaking of. What's going on this weekend, Jay? What are you traveling again? Are you what you doing? Nothing for the
I
first time in like a month.
I am home. Well, actually, I'm home for about a week. We are
There you go.
we are heading a week from Sunday to Abby's Last Dance competition, her nationals. So we'll talk
Last
about
day.
that next week. But yeah, I'll be
Can't
home
wait.
all week and here in town until uh, July 10th when we're heading to North Carolina. So
Wonderful. Well, that's
yeah,
exciting. Yeah, we have some. Oh, we don't have anything going on this weekend either. It is a little slow period, I think. Right off the vacation, like kind of come right back for a little while, try to
yeah,
settle back in a little bit, maybe. We do
good
have
stuff.
some July 4th family stuff. My wife and I were trying to plan a very spontaneous getaway, but decided it was going to be a little bit
Yeah.
too expensive because the the Tonys were this week, and Harry Potter won a Tony for his role in Merrily We Roll Along.
Really?
And so we were like, huh, I wonder if we could go see that. But it only runs until the 7th or something of July, which is pretty quickly. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, Daniel Radcliffe. Let's be clear here; it wasn't not Harry Potter.
I was
Yeah,
curious
he
about that.
and
Okay, I got you.
yeah, he and also one of his castmates. They both won Tonys, so I thought that made it really appealing. And then I haven't been to New York City with my wife, so we
Yeah.
talked about potentially doing that. But we decided, like I said, the tickets for Merrily We Roll Along are like 500 each.
Oh
So
wow.
we decided to try something else in the future, where maybe we can take a quick getaway. Um,
So quick
yeah.
aside there. If you are going to try to be spontaneous and go to New York, go up there without
Mhm.
theater tickets.
Oh, just get them there.
You can get them there. Go the morning of. Go to tickets in the middle of the square there. They're deals. I mean, go with an open mind. You can pick up 2 or 3
Yeah,
shows that way. And
yeah,
that's what we're planning next time. When we were there last year, last March, we went up there. We went to see. We had tickets for a show. And we ended up
yeah,
getting. No, we didn't get any other tickets. We ended up taking a Circle Line tour or something like that, which was awesome too. But
yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah. There's so many tickets available. A lot of those things have extra tickets. So yeah,
Yeah, we'll definitely have to look into that for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, I thought about like trying to squeeze in another show while we were there. We were talking
Yeah,
about 2 nights, 2 shows. Let's go. That'll be
yeah.
great. But now we may do something kind of around our anniversary time. So
Oh,
we are
cool.
celebrating 8 years of marriage in October. Um, so we may instead make an October plan. Um, but yeah, not much going on this week.
Yeah.
Um, and then last weekend was a very slow Father's Day. Um, I can't believe it. I think I've already had 3 Father's Days, even though my daughter's only 2. I think I had one
Right.
like kind of almost immediately after she was born,
Yeah.
and then and then now the third one. So now they're just old hat. But I
Right.
got to spend a lot of time with my daughter, um,
That's
and
awesome.
uh, and then we my daughter and I we went to my favorite. I don't even know what it's called, bread place, patisserie, but not really. They don't make pastry, but they make like whatever breakfast stuff. So got
Yeah.
a cinnamon roll and a scone, and it was delicious. Big fan of those things for sure.
I gotta say
Um,
that the conference croissants did not quite measure up to those that
oh,
we had the
you
week
haven't used.
before. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
well,
that was pretty bad.
yeah, that's
Making me
tough.
even
Tough.
more of a snob when it comes to things like that. But
Yeah, I bet they did. I bet they did.
yeah,
Oh, and then the last thing that I wanted to talk about on Monday of this week, my Dallas Mavericks were put out of their misery, um, and the Boston Celtics won the NBA championship. So boo on that. Whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
great. Woo.
I was watching
Yeah,
that in the bar with
yeah.
a couple hundred of my favorite people,
I'm
and
sure.
did not look like a pretty game at all.
No, no, no. It was no good and very comparable to Game One. Almost exactly the same, really. They were just better, and hopefully Dallas can make some improvements and be even better next year. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I think I did, but I have been a Dallas Mavericks season ticket holder, partial season ticket holder, half season, um, for since 2013, so 12
Yeah,
years, something like that now. Um, and so I got to go to Game Three, which was just a blast. And uh, and the Mavericks they partnered about 3 years ago with Ticketmaster, and so I actually you can go back on my I have a I have a Twitter handle that's my tax Twitter handle, like my professional Twitter handle, but I have one that's also just a personal one that had used for years um, before I felt like I needed a different presence on the internet. And if you go back and look, you can see me at Mark Cuban when they partnered with Ticketmaster to be like, Ticketmaster really stinks. Let's not do that.
yeah,
But they didn't care. They didn't care. And so now the only way that you can get in the American Airlines Center is with like a Dallas Mavericks app, which is
yeah,
sponsored and powered by Ticketmaster, and
yeah,
their ticket exchange is the only way that you can really buy great tickets. Like, or at least as a season ticket holder, it's the only way I can sell the tickets. I can't sell them on
yeah,
like StubHub or whatever. Um,
yeah. I
and
get you.
so, yeah, not a big fan of Ticketmaster. They're also very, very expensive. But don't know that needs to be litigated here. um, but I won't be using them again until whatever October, whenever the NBA season comes back. Maybe I will have to use them if I try to go to an NFL game over the NFL season before the
Right.
basketball season starts. But we'll worry about that for a while. For me, at least, I'm not a big baseball guy, and so this is the dead part of the year. And so as it comes to CPE, this is the perfect time for conferences. Maybe I need to go find another one past ZeroCon to like go
Yeah.
attend, so that I can make my CPE. But I've also started to run out of podcasts to listen to, so. It's time for me to get back into Earmark to make sure I hit
Yeah.
those CPE goals.
There you go.
And then ready to go for November here in Texas. Then November is when my birth month is. That's when you have to submit your CPE here.
Gotcha.
So I will over the next month or two, I'll probably get in 10 to 15 hours of CPE through Earmarks. So shout out Earmark for that. Thank you for that. Um, what else do we want to talk about today, Jay?
Well, the other thing that I've been watching is the tropical
Yeah.
weather, and we've already had
Oh
one big
yeah.
storm. We have a disturbance off the coast of Florida that has a sixty
Yeah.
percent chance of turning into something. Although it's probably going to hit land later today, so that's going to win away.
Yeah.
The ocean around Florida, around Florida and the Gulf, is at highest temperatures that are normally seen in late summer. So
Oh no.
we are in for a wonderful hurricane season this year. So just keeping an eye on it and yeah, get those weather models running here. So uh, yeah,
I hear that. Well, good luck. hopefully there's not anything that's too destructive this year, and it's just a bunch of wetness.
Knock on wood,
yeah, right.
for sure.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Well, Jay, it has been a pleasure talking about conferences today.
For sure.
I'm glad you're back. Look forward to talking about like accounting related stuff again next week. Probably we'll see what we get to. But in the meantime, God, I did it again. Oh my god, what an embarrassment. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We love talking about accounting related stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We are out. See ya.
Bye, everyone.